Hello and welcome to Secure The
Hello.
Insecure. This is the podcast that I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same match as me, then before we get to today's guest, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, click that subscribe button, leave that 5-star rating and leave a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi, click that subscribe button and leave a comment and leave a like button as well, because we need to keep spreading the word it's okay to not be okay. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today, you'll know from season 5 of Too Hot to Handle, where although she thought she was going on Love Overboard, she represented the British ladies in exploring her vulnerabilities and what has held her back in relationships thus far, with an insecurity of not feeling good enough, as well as being the queen of facial expressions, especially when she is shocked that money is being spent on kissing. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome to Secure The Insecure. It's Megan Thomson. Hello, Megan.
Hello, how are you?
I am very good now that I'm speaking to you. How are you doing?
Good, I'm good, thank you. All good.
So you messaged me, which is quite rare for someone to say they want to come on the podcast. Usually I'm the one going after guests. And I'm so glad you messaged me because I absolutely loved you on Too Hot to Handle, but we never got to see you. So first question is, why did you want to come on Secure The Insecure? What do you feel like on the show we didn't get to see of you?
I'd previously watched 2 of the cast members from season 4 on your podcast, and I really feel like it brought out their personality a lot more, which obviously I want to do. Too Hot to Handle is a 10-episode show, which you follow 14 different people's journeys on the show. So of course, if it was all about me, it'd be the Megan show, not Too Hot. I just think that I'd like to just talk to you a bit more about me.
Well, this is absolutely perfect because you're right. And I think as well, as soon as we got kind of to the second half of the series, and we'll talk about Too Hot in a little bit, but it very much focused on Louis' relationship and Alex's relationship. And therefore, everyone else kind of became part of the background. You know, that final episode, and you're supposed to reflect on what happened in your whole experience. We only saw you for literally one line. So I want to know more about your journey and go all the way through it. So let's go back to the beginning for you, Megan. Talk to me about your upbringing, who you were at school, and who was the Megan that shaped who we've got today?
I grew up in a little village in Cambridgeshire, and all my family live in the same village. So I'm a very, family mean a lot to me, and we're very tight-knit. Throughout school, I didn't really do well, to be honest with you. I never really enjoyed it. I wasn't good at the work. I just didn't enjoy school. You know, some people go and they'll work hard and they'll do their homework. That was not me. I was one of those people that was friends with everyone. I was in like what would probably be known as like the popular group, although at school I would not talk to any of the boys. I just would not talk to boys. And then I started my first job in Topshop, and obviously Topshop top man, we worked together. So in like the dressing room at work, I just wouldn't talk to any of the boys at all. I don't know what it was. I was just like such a girly girl person. I don't need to be the loudest in the room. I'll crack a few jokes, people laugh. But I just, some people like to be that like big personality in the center of the room. The attention's on them. That isn't me. I'm just more like, I'm very chilled, sit back, just go with the flow.
It's amazing to have that attitude. What were your parents like with those values that they gave you then? Because some kids are like, like only child syndrome, and it's like they need to be given everything or they need to have nothing. Where did your parents' values fit in with that?
My mum would always to do whatever I wanted. She would help me towards, if that makes sense, whether that be goals, personal life, social life, anything that I'd ever wanted, my mum would give me. My dad, he was around until I was 20, I think he's 22, and then sadly he passed away. My dad had cancer, so he had kidney cancer, but it spread. He was given about 4 months, but he lived for 4.5 years after his diagnosis, which is just incredible. And I'm so grateful for that, because you can either look at it one way or another way. The way you can look at it is like, oh, this is horrible. This is so unfair. Life is unfair for everyone. It is unfair. Or you can look at it, we had those 4.5 amazing years that the doctors said we wouldn't have.
How did you change as a person? You're going through your late teens, early 20s, where you're trying to work out who you are, and yet you've got your dad who's really ill, you've got your mum who's probably using you for a bit of catharsis to just let it all out, and obviously makes you kind of grow up that little bit more. How did you find navigating in those years?
So I think before his diagnosis, I was maybe a little bit of a party girl. Like I enjoyed going out on the weekends with my friends, as everybody my age would. When he was diagnosed, I kind of just reined it in, just spent more time with family. That is what was most important to me at that time. And I'm glad that I did. There will probably be a few occasions where I went out and then I'd be like, oh, I could have gone and seen my dad yesterday. But I did spend a lot of time with him. And when you go through something like that, it does change you massively, because you do realize, you know, everybody says life is too short, which it is, but you're like, oh, it is. Things can be taken from you so quickly.
When he passed away, obviously you'd had 4.5 years to get used to the idea.
Yeah.
What was the grieving process like for you?
Towards the end, he was put on different trials, so like chemotherapy trials, basically, because he was young, he was fit, he was 50, I believe he was 50 when he passed away, so he was young. Basically, he got an infection and he had to come off his chemo tablets, and it was one of those things, the infection's either going to kill him or him not being on the chemotherapy. And it was actually the first day that we got put into lockdown that he got put in a hospice. We were watching like Boris on the news saying, oh, we're going into lockdown, and the rules changed. We could only go in and see him for 2 hours in the hospice a day, like per person, me, my brother, my stepmom, my little brothers. Then he passed away 5 days after that. We had the whole funeral outside. It was literally just 10 family members. I was living at my mum's at the time. My stepmom had to get permission for me to stand with my brother at my dad's funeral. It was horrendous. Like, you know, you see it on the news, you see people talking about it, but it's just, you know, in a way, I do think to myself, maybe that was best, because I don't think I'd like all eyes to be on me anyway. And it was a beautiful send off, but it was a very, very hard time, especially being in lockdown. I was on furlough, so I literally just spent months at home with my mum. My brother went to work, so he was distracted. But then obviously that kind of thing can, you know, do different things to your head either way. Yeah, I was glad that I did have the time just at home, not doing much, to kind of process what was going on.
I don't want to get into a COVID route of being
Yeah.
COVID and the vaccine, blah, blah, blah. But I'm interested mentally in the way you look back at it now. The fact that lockdown was so prolific and so heightened when this all happened to you. How do you look back at that time mentally of, I had to go through a grieving process, and I had lockdown where we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how to feel about ourselves. And we didn't really know who we were and if we were able to adapt to being alone like that.
I just remember when I first saw it on the news that there was like 2 cases in the UK. My dad was traveling a lot. And I remember texting my stepmom, like, can we just wrap dad in cotton wool? Because he was very prone to like catching things. And I thought, if he catches that, like, that would be it. It was just really, really difficult. And I was getting texts from my friends saying, I'm so annoyed I can't see my boyfriend for X amount of weeks. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you will see him again. You will see him again. And there's so many people out there who lost people. Obviously, mine wasn't through COVID, but it was at the time. And it's just, yeah, you know, you see things on the news, as you said, we won't go into like a COVID row, but you see things on the news and it's like, I lived through that, whereas other people were just living through furlough, getting paid to do nothing and just chilling out and not being able to see their boyfriends, but you will be able to see them, so that's okay.
What are those biggest memories that you're now treasuring and think about when you want to think about him?
My favourite memory is actually the day that the day before he passed away. I went to see him for some lunch. He had like a full dinner, considering how poorly he was. He had a full dinner, and we had some 80s music on the background, because that's what he loved, like 80s music. And we were just I've got a video on my phone of us just dancing around his hospice room to this music. It's mad in a way, because, you know, you think that, you know, people be laying there, you know, really poorly, and he was just upbeat all the time, playing pranks on us, dancing to his favourite 80s music. Whenever I hear Luther Vandross, Never Too Much, that's my dad's song. And it comes on everywhere I go. It's so lovely.
Well, if you listen to Magic or Smooth FM, it's probably every 8th song is going to be that song.
Literally. We were in Ocean Beach in Ibiza a couple of weeks ago, and it came on, and it's just like, I think it's quite a popular song at the moment as well, and it just comes on everywhere, and I love that. I really do love that. And I do try to go to his grave like every couple of weeks, and I just like to sit there, if you know what I mean. I think at the time it was really hard, but now you have days that are hard, but you also have days that are okay. And like when I got the show, my dad, like, it's something that I'd always wanted to do, like do a reality show. And back in August, I think it was 2018, I found a text from him saying, oh, I hope your TV show dreams come true. And I was just like, oh, they did, Dad, they did. And also when I was in the retreat, I've got this little charm bracelet that my mum bought me, and it's got his writing on it. So like when I was sat there in the retreat and I was having a bit of a bad day or whatever, I'd just look down and I'd be like, he is always with me.
So for those that are listening, if they're going on their own grief journeys, the first thing to say is grieferencounters.org.uk is an amazing charity that will help you with your process. Give them a call, check them out. But also, they'll be going to visit the grave of their loved ones. And there's always a question about, what do I do? And I've been to my grandparents' graves and I kind of stand and I kind of awkwardly talk and I don't ever really know what to say. So when you're going to your dad's grave so often, what do you actually do? Do you just sit there and just think about old times? Are you talking to him? What do you find as that place of catharsis and when you're at the grave?
So I'd normally like play one of his favorite songs. I've got like a whole playlist on my phone. Obviously, Luther Vandross is like number one. Also, he loved rhubarb and custard sweets, so I'll often take like a little bag of sweets and just have a sweet with him, or on like occasions I'll take like beers and stuff. I like to make it look pretty, if that makes sense. So I've dug a little section of it and I put like loads of pretty stones down, take flowers. I feel like when I go, I'll take like scissors and cut around the edges of the grass to make it just look more neat. That to me is comforting because I'm like, I feel like I'm still doing something for him.
Let's talk about Too Hot to Handle. So you went on this journey through the retreat where you went to find your self-love. Did you find the self-love for yourself?
I did, definitely. I think the main thing that I brought, like that I came out of the retreat with, was I can really stick up for myself now. I wouldn't before, if that makes sense. Like that's not just in relationships, in like life in general, friends, whatever it is. If I believe something, I will say it and I will stand up for myself. Whereas before, I don't think, I'd just be like, oh, whatever.
And what about now you've got a boyfriend in real life?
I have a real life boyfriend.
A real life boyfriend. We saw it. It was on your social media a couple of days ago. We saw a bit of a tattoo on the arm or the leg, giving away little clues. There, it's almost like X on the Beach level. What have you taken into that relationship? What are the lessons you've learned from the retreat? But also, what have you learned from him that's changed the way that you look at the world now in relationships?
I think like we just have so much trust between the two of us that I don't worry about anything. And I think the main thing is as well, like you need to be friends with the person that you're with. Like you have to have the friendship there as well as being in a relationship. If not, I've just learned like from previous seeing stages or dating, it just doesn't work if you're not the best of friends anyway. So yeah, I am very happy now.
And so you come off that journey and now the show went out in July, but people are still finding out word of mouth. I didn't even know it was back until you messaged me. I literally had no idea. It's one of my favorite shows. How are you finding this new reality world? Because you're getting more followers every single day. More people are going to find out about the show. Obviously, you've mentally, physically moved on. You're in a new relationship now. But now it's like your TV time to shine, to navigate yourself through this reality bubble now that Love Island's done as well. So how are you finding that whole new world that you're in?
It's been fun. It has been really fun. I think, as you said, like, because it was filmed a little while ago, you do kind of just move on in your head. And there's days where you think, did that actually happen? And then you don't find out what is shown until it's shown. So you never really know 100% in your head, like, how much airtime I'm going to have. Is the viewer going to like me as a person? But all of my response has been amazing. Like everybody's been saying how much they love me and how much like they can relate to me. And that's what I wanted. Like I wanted to go on there, be the person that I am, the girl next door, you know, just a normal girl. And I do think that has really come across. And, you know, I'll have girls message me all the time, like, that's how I feel. And obviously I can't reply to all of them, but I think that's like, it's nice for people to see something like that on TV and know that they're not the only person that goes through this. It's like before when, you know, I'll talk to my friends and they're going through things. And at the same time, you're like, well, I went through this at this time, but actually seeing it play out on TV is different than your friends just saying, well, I've been through that too. It'll be all right in the end.
It's very funny. There's a poem, an amazing poem called The Dash, and it's all about you obviously alive at a time and you die at a time. And in the middle, there's this dash, and you don't really know what goes on in there, that journey. We're all on our own journey. It doesn't matter when things happen it just matters that it's going to happen to you at some time. And you've obviously had experiences earlier on, and your friends are having it later on, and you can't compare those experiences. But when you're in this reality world, people obviously look up to you. How's that changed for you now that people are coming to you for advice rather than you seeking it from other people?
It's nice because I think like when other people, when it's not just obviously your close girlfriends are going to come to you for advice on like dating or just life advice, friend advice, but when it's random people that you don't know from all over the world, I think it just shows that everyone is the same. Essentially, everybody goes through the same things. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody goes through something. And I think if people like, you know, if young girls message me and say, oh, this is what's happened with me, it is nice to be able to be like, well, you know, it'll be all right in the end, because it actually will.
Well, that's it. It will be all right. So now we've got Megan who has been on Too Hot to Handle. She's got a boyfriend. She's happy in love. What's the next TV show you're going to do?
I wouldn't do any, obviously, reality dating shows. I am very happy, very settled with my boyfriend. And we've also got a miniature Pomeranian called Bo. So yeah, I'm very lucky. I've got a little family now. TV show wise, there's one show that I would absolutely love to do, which is The Real Full Monty.
So just to explain it, Ashley Banjo and Colleen Nolan do it for ITV once a year. It's for cancer, and it's basically all men and women who are celebrities who have got someone they know who's gone through cancer, or they've gone through cancer themselves, strip off for charity at the London Palladium and do a big show. So over to you.
When I saw that, the first ever series of that, I was like, that is what I want to do. I think at the time, I don't know about dates wise, but I think at the time my dad was still here. But I was like, that is what I want to do. How am I going to do that? I'm not a celebrity. I've not done any TV work before. How am I going to do that? And I think the funniest thing would be if I was to get that show, I am the worst dancer you will ever meet. I have 2 left feet. I cannot dance. I cannot sing. I cannot dance. But that would not stop me, because I would absolutely love to do that. Like, that is like on the vision board. But as you said that it's coming back, I've heard that also. So maybe next year. If
you don't get that show, would you consider doing something else to raise money and awareness for cancer that's not on TV?
Yeah, definitely. I think like I've got 2 younger brothers and an older brother, and they've all done like different charity fundraising things. For like, my little brother did a fishing match. I haven't got a talent other than being me. So I definitely like to do something for charity. I'd love to go on one of those like 5K walks or something like that. As I said, I've got bad knees as well, so I need to be careful. I could never do the London Marathon. I'd love to do more like talking about young person's grief, which is obviously hard to talk about, but over time it'd probably get easier. But when everything happened with me, I felt there was only one influencer online who had been through the same thing with her mum like a month before. So I always used to go back and look on her page. I've not seen anything like, an actual young person talking about, losing a parent, losing a friend. And I have got like people in my friendship group who have been through the same thing, different people. So yeah, I think that'd be really good.
Well, that was Megan Thomson. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and opening up about her grief journey. If you love Too Hot to Handle, like I do, Seb Melrose and Sophie Stonehouse from last year, season 4, are on Secure The Insecure. Go and check it out in the library right now. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, click that subscribe button, leave a 5-star rating and leave a review. And on YouTube, if you're watching, click that subscribe button, leave a like and leave a comment. Let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. And if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on TikTok at Johnny Seifert92, Twitter at Johnny Seifert, Instagram and Johnny Seifert is where you can find me. And next week on Secure The Insecure, it's the return of the Secure The Insecure Book Club. It's where we talk to our favourite authors about their mental health themes in their book. This time it's Nicola Gill talking about swimming for beginners and Junaid Ahmed from Tarif. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.